All right, welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we have an exciting special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Amy Taylor, and I live in LA. And what else? I've been here for a couple decades. I'm a model and a companion, and about it. California, almost a native, but not an LA native. But like many, I ended up here, and yeah, what's up?
Oh, not much dealing with the cold weather outside.
Yeah, it's that time of year, so even for us, same thing. We're staying indoors. Although in Los Angeles, anything like even a mist of rain, people think is like a storm and they get very excited and they hunker down. Like there's no one outside right now. And I feel like if this were Seattle or Portland, people would be out and about like it was nothing. But we're kind of weather wimps in this town. We don't get much. So
There's nothing wrong with that.
weak, weak LA blood. So
So, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into modeling.
I mean, I like a lot of pretty young girls. I think it found me. I went. So I was born in Pennsylvania, but we moved to Northern California when I was five, just about five. Went to grammar school and then high school there. And in high school, I was pretty, right? And a scout found me at a mall. And you always wonder if that's like going to be some creep or pedophile. Well, I guess I was lucky because it wasn't. He was a real photographer with real clothing brands and a real school where you could learn, and it wasn't fake, like wasn't a scam. And my father was very concerned and went with me to the first few shoots and stuff just to make sure this dude wasn't a creep. And I guess I got lucky because I wasn't. And so I did a little bit of modeling, some clothing hang tags, did then some pageants. I know it's super cheesy, but yeah, I did a couple pageants and walked on a couple runways just for charity. There's not a lot of editorial, is what they call that. There's not a lot of high fashion in that part of the world, but what little there was, I did some of that, like at the mall. And I think you just kind of, it finds you typically if you have a certain look. And then I didn't really get any taller. So it was going to be, fitness and catalog rather than something like high fashion where you need to be quite tall. And it paid and it was fun and it was neat to be around creative people. And so it just sort of found me, and it ended up being something that I did part-time while I did other things, school and then other work. And when I moved to LA, so I did my undergrad in Northern California, studied biology, loved that, doesn't pay a lot, worked in biotech, hated that, rerouted, decided to go to graduate school. That's what brought me to Southern California. But all the while I was modeling because, it's something you can do on the side. I mean, if you come to LA, like everybody's got a headshot, right? There's, people consult for TV and movies, even though they have a day job. We're all sort of hyphenators in this town. So I think modeling was just something I could do. I found fun. It's easy. It pays. And it just remained something I was kind of involved in tangentially, even when I went to grad school and then worked for an oil company and everything else I've ever done in the years since. I've kind of still shot photos as well, because I guess why not, right? It's like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's one of those things where it, based on the way you tell the story is it's definitely something you enjoy doing because you can just hear it in your voice.
Thanks. I mean, there's a lot of things I enjoy doing. It's one of them. Because I was kind of science minded. I have an inner kind of geek. I like left brain stuff, as they say. I think it was really fun for me to be around the quote unquote right brain, like the creative types who see light and shadows, who understand color and texture. And I have none of that. Like, I'm not good at even planning an outfit. I also don't care enough. So, but I can appreciate beauty, of course, who can't? And so I think it's been to dip one's toe in a world of people who see and function differently than you is quite fun, right? maybe when you do this podcast, part of the fun is peeking into the lives of people who are not you. And so being on
Right.
set, right? Like it's neat. I think everybody enjoys that, right? Why else would we travel? Why else would we eat different food or want to meet different people? I like to live in big cities because every time I go outside, I meet people who are not like me. And so I think having no creative talent of my own, but having a conventionally long-limbed body that looks good on camera by whoever's definition of whatever they decided looks nice on camera, it was not only easy, but it was kind of fun to be around creatives. I like being on set. I like seeing what they do. The modeling is the most boring part of it. You literally just stand there. I'm probably less good at it because I'm overly interested in the camera and the setup and the makeup and the hair and the wardrobe. But yeah, being around creatives is a pleasure and a privilege, and I'm endlessly fascinated at what they can create from start to finish. So yeah, I do enjoy it.
Yeah, and just being, I would imagine just being around creative people in general, it's kind of a stimulating kind of thing because it gets you thinking about what you're watching somebody do and kind of fascinates you to a degree that you not only want to learn it, but for most people, you kind of want to try it.
Yes. I think a lot of models probably, I know a lot of them end up in like makeup or fashion design or behind the, I've been shot by Julia Mindar, who is herself a gorgeous model and a very talented photographer. It's weird when the photographer is prettier than the talent. I'm not sure I like it. I'm kidding. She's stunning and she's a gem and a hilarious woman and a pleasure to work with. But yeah, she started modeling and ended up finding out that she was also good on the other side of the camera. I don't know if I am. I never tried. I again don't really have I like engines and science and math in my own time, but I can appreciate sets. And I think, let's be honest, a lot of it is by virtue of just living in Southern California, where there is a lot of that. If I had gone to graduate school elsewhere, as I almost did, I almost went to graduate school in San Luis Obispo, California. It's in the Central Coast, very small town. My entire life would have for sure been different. So I think some of this is just kismet of ending up in LA and being around, one is always a product of one's environment to some extent, right? I mean, I think that's part of it. So, but it remains fun. And why wouldn't I make use of being decent looking while I am? I think I would have been an idiot not to capitalize on that. It was a happy accident of genetics and time. So I would have been stupid to just throw that in the bin. Not that I only capitalized on my looks. I still wanted to use the old noggin because that lasts longer. And luckily I was never so good looking that I could sort of I didn't also have to have a brain and a personality. It was better to be an 8, not a 10, because you kind of had to have something else going for you. I joke. There's lots of people who are stunningly good looking and also lovely people on the inside too. But yeah, modeling was something that was available to me. And I think what I like now is what's happening in the modeling world is there's a lot more space for different definitions of beauty. You don't just have one set of measurements and race and height and weight that is the ideal. I think it's lovely to see it more democratized. It's lovely to see it less ageist. There's a lot of gray models now that are older. And there's a lot of models that are different sizes. And I think it's really nice to see an expansion of what we call beautiful. Because there's beauty everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like people always saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean,
Yeah, you ever meet somebody?
True.
You ever meet somebody and they're like awesome, and they kind of become more beautiful to you, or vice versa? You meet somebody and they're a garbage person, and they don't even seem good looking to you after a while because you're like, oh, they're not. So for sure,
exactly.
And some people shine on camera. There's people who take a great picture, and in real life, they're not necessarily so perfect. Some people's faces light up under lights and at certain angles. And, you know, when you model a lot, you kind of learn like what makes you look good and what doesn't. In that sense, sometimes you become overly conscious of the physicality to the detriment of focusing on the inside, which can make things like aging or, you know, not looking good rough because you're so used to it. But it's important to take it with a grain of salt. Like anything you derive success from: money, power, looks, youth, athletic ability. Everything is transient and, you know, dust to dust and all that, as they say. So I think it's fun, but it's important to remember it is, you know, nobody's curing cancer when they shoot the cover of Playboy. So it's just,
right.
It's fun, but it's not that important.
Exactly. And, you know, talking about some of the other stuff you're interested in. So what about, science is intriguing? I mean, I know there's so many different aspects of it, but, you know, I know for myself, I'm the kind of guy that I kind of like listening and learning about space, things that are away from us that you'll never really see.
Same.
Not in my time, anyway.
No. I mean, look, existentially, I also agree. I love a sci-fi movie. Interstellar was my favorite. It's still my favorite movie. Like, I think a couple of things. So, not to be too nihilistic, but when you are reminded how small and quote unquote unimportant you are, I don't find that depressing. I find that liberating, that we're grains of sand in a beach and each grain matters, but again, it doesn't, right? That paradox to me is liberating. It makes me realize whatever I'm feeling will pass. It's not that important, even though it feels like it is. It matters, but it also doesn't, sort of, right? That I find the vastness. So yeah. And then of course, in terms of so that's, you know, astronomy and physics and the big stuff, down to the small stuff, which I studied in undergrad, molecular biology, and even smaller than that, if you're a physicist, like quantum and stuff that I don't understand. When you get down to the tiny levels, I think it's revelatory in the beauty of design and the miracle that it all exists. If I dare use a religious word, I think, what is more interesting than life? Nothing. I mean, it's the big question. And yeah, the monster that haunts us all is the finite nature of it all. I don't have any answers. I'll let you know if I die first. I'll come haunt you and let you know what comes after. But I think there's a meditative aspect for me when I think about science. I think I'm able to get outside myself, my own sort of nonsense and emotions, and I can think about something either, like I said, much bigger or much smaller. And there's sort of a detachment that comes with that is puts things in the perspective they belong in. Because, right, we can get too into this nonsense, and that's not healthy for anybody. And then, of course, logistically, I just enjoy math. I enjoy numbers. I enjoy thinking that way. And I like nerds. I think people doing cool stuff and trying to make the world better, whether they fail or succeed, that's a valiant way to spend one's life. I wish I had done more. Being around brilliance, not necessarily just of scientific sort, but being around brilliance is a privilege and an honor. And so every time I go, like, read what my alma mater is up to and see what young scientists are doing, trying to make this world better for people is really inspirational. So there's a lot about science. I like that science also stands on the shoulders of those who came before. Science, there's a certain humility of like, this is the best we have right now. And we realize that in years to come, we will be looked at as very primitive and probably wrong, surely wrong. But that humility that we stand on the shoulders of those before, and we know that we will be replaced by better stuff. I like that approach. It is so humble compared to other fields that are like, this is the best and we're the best, right? Science doesn't do that. I like that approach to thinking. So.
Yeah, I mean, and you're not wrong. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, if you look back through history and some of the things that's happened, you know, that you're only as good as the technology you have at the time that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And
No.
as we advance, it's going to get better and better, and we'll be able to do things that we weren't able to do, 60 years ago.
For sure. Yeah, I think medical science alone has, and you look back at stuff as horrific and primitive when you know better and do better. And it's not to say that science never gets used for sort of nastiness and evil. Like that happens with sort of every field. In its truest form, it's not supposed to be, but things get bastardized because humans are going to human, right?
Right.
But yeah, I think how on earth, like I like to fly planes. I'm a pilot. And when I look at a plane, that physics that somebody figured out, pressure and changes in Bernoulli and figured out how to fly a plane, that is, and aviation is, the history of aviation is on the backs of a lot of real madmen who, a lot of them died. A lot of them messed up. A lot of them did things wrong, and to get to what we have now, and it will continue to get better. That kind of can-do delusion, that kind of good crazy to say, hey, let's do what that bird is doing. Let's try to do this. Is that kind of madness is beautiful, and truly, I believe that people who decide that something that couldn't get done can and should get done are the only people that ever make anything better, right? The only people that ever move society in a different direction are the ones who aren't chicken shit. The ones who say, and I'm not going to stand here for what is and just let it be here. I'm going to make it different and better. And then we argue about what that is. That's what the law is for, and that's fine. Different places make different decisions and judgment calls on where society should go, and that's fine. But the only people who ever make anything better are the visionaries, the ones that are crazy. And by crazy, I mean they see something that isn't here yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should protect them, I think. And that includes creatives. It doesn't have to be just science. It can be, my sister's a lobbyist, and she tries to improve the law, which is also a living thing, which is fallible and wrong at times. And there's an entire messy process of trying to slowly make it better. It's an ocean liner. It's tough to move, but I admire anybody who's trying to do anything that's not here yet. In that sense, it's all creativity, just of different facets of the same diamond, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And being creative, I feel just, doing the podcast it's one of those things where I get enjoyment out of spending the time talking with people and editing the videos. So I could kind of understand when it comes down to, like flying planes or, learning anything that has to do with just thinking in general of how things operate, because it keeps you fresh. It keeps your mind young.
Sure. I think, what was it? Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote a great book. I'm going to probably get the title wrong, but I think it was called The Zone. I don't know. I could be wrong. Anyway, he talks about when people are in this zone of creativity, something happens to their mind. When you are sort of learning and advancing and creative and making, it is sort of meditative, right? In the same way that yoga or, watch somebody when they're skiing downhill really fast, or when they're engaged in surfing and all their focus is somewhere. That is something that humans need. Different people derive it different ways, but it kind of shuts off what I was talking about earlier, shuts off the nonsense and puts you in a zone where all of your focus is in one direction. And that is sort of good for us. I think everyone is happiest when they are being creative in whatever form is happy for them. Particularly when you share and gather. I think the last 2 years of COVID, when people couldn't gather, we saw how bad for that us as humans that was. Now, we had to do what we had to do. We had a pandemic. That's a different discussion. But we are not made to be isolated. We are not made to be doing nothing. we have to get out there and do a bunch of nonsense because we're monkeys with opposable thumbs and we got to do stuff. And we don't thrive when we don't. Um, so, yeah, like any other human, I'm here for a few decades and then gone. And I fully intend on arriving to my death exhausted, used up, and having explored as much as I can. I mean, I'm gonna get there like a beat up old car, having had all the fun I can in every way that hopefully didn't hurt other human beings. Because what else are we here to do, right? That's what lights it all up is creativity, is using this thing we got, right?
That's right.
However,
Yeah, and when you're creative in any facet or form, you ultimately are making somebody's life a little bit better, whether it be, yours or somebody around you, or, if you're in creating tech, millions of people. So, I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Even if it's just your tiny corner of the world, most of us won't be Steve Jobs, and that's fine. But yeah, I do a lot of speaking out in support of models and companions and the ways in which I think a complicated section of the world could be better, because it's important for me to try to do what I can to leave my tiny corner of the world a little better. And that's all right. We don't all have to be Elon Musk, right? That'd be awesome if I could launch rockets, but I'm not that smart, and I'm not going to be that big of a deal to society, which is fine. We do have to. I think as you get older too. I just turned 46, and I think you start to think about, as you get older, you start to think about, will your life have meant anything to anybody, right? That's a pretty natural state of affairs to wonder if you could,
yeah,
mattered, if your existence here mattered. And that's a fine thing, ego driven perhaps, but not a bad thing. So I think certain creative pursuits, people write books or make movies or whatever they do, podcasts, you want to leave a little footprint on the world, right? That's a good thing.
Definitely. So I am curious about becoming a pilot. How was that, and what was that journey like for you?
Oh, thanks. So my mom's dad was a pilot. My grandpa, I didn't know my other grandpa. He died when my father was young, so I only knew my one grandpa, my mom's dad, and he was something to me when I was a little girl. He was Air Force, and he was a man's man, and he knew how to fix old cars, and took me fishing, and he later in life smoked a cherry tobacco pipe, and I still love the smell of cherry tobacco. And he used to, after dinner at my grandparents' house, he would leave the house. We would pretend we didn't know, and he would come back in with a 12-pack of donuts, and every time we would pretend it was a surprise, even though every time we knew he was going to do it. And when he passed away, it was the loss of somebody that meant a lot to me. So maybe I got the bug from him because he was an aviator. When he died, I was able to keep his hat, and Robert was something, and a complicated guy, but a good dude, and raised my mom, who's a good woman. And so I think I caught the bug, when I was flying for fun, just got my private pilot and was flying around, I got the bug. And I think you either do or you don't. The first time I went with an instructor and pulled it off the runway and rotated, I couldn't, like I said, I studied science. I took a fair amount of physics. I understand why it flies, but I still was like, no way can this work? Like it's a miracle. And I felt powerful, in control of the engine and making this thing maneuver like I wanted. And I also felt incredibly humbled by the natural forces on planet Earth that allow the combination of combustion and the violence that is suck, push, bang, blow, right? Engine combustion, with the calm beauty of low pressure on the top of a wing and high pressure on the bottom that vacuum you up into the heavens like a homesick angel. I couldn't believe this could work. And so I just wanted to do it again and again and again. And so that becomes a very expensive hobby if you want to fly planes. So I decided if I became an instructor, and then later I flew cargo and charter and some other ways, I flew for an owner operator. I found lots of ways to get my butt into that seat without spending millions of dollars a year that I didn't have, because to have your own jet and fly it around, you need to be like stupid rich. I'm not. So it was just, I think if you've got, maybe it's from Robert that I've got this in my blood. I don't really know. I will add that part of it was that there are not very many women who do it. So I thought that was kind of cool, because it's, I think, 6% women now, just to give or take. But I don't know. Have you ever tried it? Have you ever tried flying a plane? You can.
I have not.
Dude, go do it. It's called a discovery flight. Lots of little airports will take you up. You just have to find a flight school. I'm sure there's one near you. And like, it's amazing. Like, it's, I don't know how anybody wouldn't get addicted to it. It's, I don't know. It's like, I mean, that view, the view from up above looking down on the world, is a view that we as humans have only had for about a century, a little over a century. No human saw the world from that view before. And so what a time to be alive, right? I mean, what a time to be alive when you can, a journey from you to me, where you live to where I live, that was a once in a lifetime journey. It took you months. Half your family probably died on the way, and you never went back. And now you can be anywhere in the world in a day, anywhere. And it's about to be a few hours with what's coming in aviation. So how insane would I be to not take advantage of this, that this exists, right? Aviation is
right.
And again, aviation, if you read about it, is built on the backs. We say the FARs, that's the Federal Aviation Regulations. We say the FARs are written in blood, meaning that every safety rule in aviation exists because somebody died. Almost true. That, it's built on the backs of a lot of sacrifice of life, of money, of genius, of bravery. And so just like any other field, it is an absolute love letter to human ingenuity. So that's why I do it, because I can, right? What a time to be alive.
Yeah. Plus it helps, to know that anything we put our minds to, we can figure out a way to make it work.
I hope that's true. I think it's mostly true if people let us. I think you need a certain degree of individuality, like there is in America, which is messy and problematic, difficult to govern, but useful, right? You need the kind of country that allows people to do stuff, which comes with other consequences. But I think it's really beautiful that, America has a lot of little tiny runways built for the wars to be able, the safety issue, right? To get planes in and out if need be. And then we have a flight school infrastructure. We have that. You don't have that in every country. You can't just go rent a plane and fly everywhere. This is a crazy country that is very free in that sense. And it's very regulated, of course, as it should be. But just the crazy idea that you could go get a plane or a rotorcraft and learn to fly it if you want, that is not something that's available to everyone on Earth. So, you need certain things to exist to have this. And I understand the arguments against aviation. It's not currently great for the environment. There's people working on that. I hope it gets better. There are problems with it, like with anything else. But I think I've been driven in my life by a love of freedom. I'm utterly uninterested in having power over other people. I don't understand why anybody would want power over others, unless, that's a bedroom game and that's fun, but that's not real. I think, but I do like my freedom. And I think there's something about flying that makes you feel free, right? You ever get it's the same in driving. You ever get behind the wheel of a car and you get on an open road? How do you feel?
Like I could go anywhere I wanted.
Right? Right. The motion, especially if you're alone with some good tunes. And I don't know when you got your license, but the first time I drove at 16, it was the first time I was alone and free. you don't have your own house by then or apartment, but it was my own like little first space. It was just me. And I could go not anywhere, but a little bit of anywhere. That was, I think there's something in most humans and maybe even other animals that wants to be self-directed and wants some degree of autonomy, even at great risk, right? That's something pretty inherent to most people. And aviation affords that. So you should try it. You might hate it, but I bet you won't. I'd like to learn rotorcraft. I don't know how to fly helicopters yet, but it's on my bucket list.
And see, that totally makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things where, I remember when I got my driver's license, and it was like an exciting thing, but at the same time, you were like, okay, so where can I go? What can I do? I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Sure. It's very exciting, and it also imbues a sense of responsibility. It can be dangerous, right? You have to learn the rules, and you have to know what you're doing, and you have to watch out for other people. And I think we also, as humans, things light up and get satisfied when we have some responsibility. That's kind of something that most people usually like. You feel, I don't know, makes you feel like a grown-up. Too much responsibility can be a headache, of course, and we take vacations and go to spas and tune out, to get away from that, which is also fine. But I know when you first get a license and you have to learn the road and how to operate a machine, it's very fun. A lot of human happiness, I don't know how your life's gone, but a lot of human happiness for most people comes from solving problems, right?
Exactly.
I don't know how to do this thing. Let me learn and let me solve it. And so learning something new, driving, flying, working a podcast. Before we logged in here, I had to do something a little new. And when it worked, you get a little hit of dopamine, like, okay, I solved that thing. Onward and forward, right? That's, I think, good for us. And
exactly.
natural. But yeah, so I don't know how far flying will take me. Like I said, I'm getting my aerobatic rating right now, which is you learn to spin it and flip it. And I'm doing all the barfing because it makes you really airsick at first. But I am told by my instructor that will fade. So I have some instructor licenses, and I had to spin a plane to get those, but this is much more than that. So it gets a bit of a you don't want to eat beforehand, but hopefully that'll get better, and I'll be able to get my aerobatic rating because it's been on my bucket list for a while. So.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, you have several different things going on that you can tell you thoroughly enjoy it. You enjoy the process of getting there, and then you enjoy the process while you're doing it.
Well, I mean, I didn't do what most women do. I didn't get married and I didn't have kids. And that frees up a lot of time and a little bit of spare cash. So what was I going to do? I mean, I'm already in my 40s and I have a tiny dog. So I'm already fulfilling my spinster goals, which is fine. I joke. It's fine. There's lots of ways to be happy. I love being an aunt. My sister's got kids. It's great. But I have to fill my time with something. So why not learn how to do new things? I think, why wouldn't anybody want to? The limitations, of course, are money and time. Like anybody, I've got those limitations, but because I didn't do the more traditional stuff, and that was fine. That was part how life happened to me, and partly my goal. I'm okay that way. Like I said, there's lots of ways to be happy, and for women, motherhood is not the only one. It's the one most people do, but I instead of making babies, I shoot guns and fly planes. It's a life, right?
Hey, and it sounds like it's been a fun journey up to this point, and there's only more to come.
Thanks for saying that. That's really hopeful. I hope that's true. I think. I don't understand why so many people are upset about being in their mid-40s. I love it. I can't wait for my 50s. Like, knock on wood, I still feel good. I look okay. I'm beauty. I've spent my whole life being beautiful. It's less interesting to me now. I don't know, as it fades by conventional definitions of beauty tend to favor youth. I'm not sure why. I think old people can be very beautiful, but whatever. The modeling industry tends to favor you. So as that fades, I don't know how much I'll miss it. I guess I'll find out. It's unavoidable. There's only one way not to age, and I don't want to do that yet. So I think why shouldn't anybody look forward? I mean, some of the most fascinating people I know are like in their 70s and they're still looking forward. My grandmother, my father's mother, lived to be 104. Anyway, very old.
Wow.
She just passed a couple years ago. And, you know, I'll tell you, she was still looking forward until she had like books to write, and she was a little bit well known, and she had like shows to do and people to meet with. I mean, this lady, I think part of the reason she made it so long was that she was too busy to leave earlier. She was forward looking. She was excited about the future until the very end. And why wouldn't one live that way? The alternative isn't fun, right? Why not grab life? And one of my lawyers, he made fun of me the other day. He's like, "You are delightfully alive." And I don't think it was entirely a compliment, but I would take being delightfully alive over the alternative. I mean, why shouldn't we, right?
Yeah. It makes your life that much more interesting.
I just wish I had 10 lifetimes to do everything. I think, and it doesn't to say I never relax. I do. I sleep a lot actually, and, you know, do yoga and all the relaxing things too. But I think, just don't want to waste it. You know, I don't want to waste it. And that means different things to different people. Like I said, I did not have children. I never dreamed of being a mom. I wasn't against it. If it had happened for me, that probably would have been great, and I'm sure I would love it. But yeah, I mean, each of us, our dreams are totally different, but to have them sitting there and instead waste your life, that seems really foolish to me, right? The way that I know of, we get one life. Maybe we come around again, but I don't know that we do. So I'm not going to waste it, right? It also doesn't make you a very interesting person. So I've been called names by people, but I've never been called boring. So,
well, and it's one of those things too that, you know, if you don't do what you're wanting to do now and try new things, you know, when you're 80 and you can't do it, you're going to look back and wish you had done it.
So I read this book about, it's kind of morbid, right? But to your point, I read this book about like the regrets of the dying. I know it sounds weird. It's like, why would you think about this? But I got interested in that because a Buddhist friend of mine told me that Buddhists, I don't even know if it's true, I'm not Buddhist, but she said that Buddhists spend time thinking about their mortality. Sounds morbid, sounds weird, but it's not. The reason that's useful is because it reminds you that you don't have time for nonsense, for wasting it. That if you're in a fight with somebody that you love, stop it, make up, tell them you love them. It doesn't mean you have to let go of whatever wrongs we've all been wronged, and we've all wronged others. That's part of the human experience. Like, you don't have time to like waste it. So I read this book, and a lot of the people who talked at the end of their lives regretted living for others, living in a way that they didn't want, wasn't true to what their soul wanted, and lived for others, parents, society, government, whatever. Not that you can be a total out of control anarchist, of course, but one of the other regrets was precisely what you said, is waiting till it was too old. Logistic things like my parents are aging now and there's mobility issues. And I'm so glad that they did lots of hiking and skiing and traveling when they were younger, because they are slowing down, which is normal and natural. But they had a lot of fun physically before they were in the chapter they're in now, right? Sorry, my dog. Nope, I'm sorry. He barks at the TV sometimes. I think, to your point, don't wait. Don't make someday into never. Learn that thing, or go take that walk up the mountain, or tell that person you love them. What's the worst they can do? They can tell you to go to hell. That's fine. You'll survive it. Or, you know, this book talks about nobody gets to the end and says, yeah, I wish I had spent more time in the cubicle arguing with Steve from HR. No one said
Right.
that. So it's precious. It's, and I agree with you is that, don't wait till you're 80 and you can't do stuff. So that's why I don't golf yet. I like golf. I love it. It's a great sport, very posh, very classy, but I'm holding out to do more golfing when I cannot scuba dive and ski and do other more intense sports. That'll be my sixth sport later.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it's just, life in general is one of those things where enjoy it while you are able to, because none of us get out alive. So,
Yeah, absolutely a truism. Absolutely. I think, and that's not that some days aren't more mundane than others. I mean, before I got on this podcast, I was, doing dishes and laundry. That is not glamorous or exciting. It's part of what everybody does. But yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised what you can do if you just say yes to life a little more. I think for me, I don't know how you felt, but the COVID lockdowns, they stole a couple of years from all of us. Again, I understand why we did it. I'm not saying we shouldn't have. That's a different discussion. But 2 years out of a life is significant. And I am not going to waste what I have left. I don't think anybody should. I think it was very bad for someone like me to have sort of nothing to do. And I took so many stupid little walks around my neighborhood, so many just dumb little walks when we couldn't do anything else. And then I did a lot of traveling when I got frustrated enough. I safely did all the testing and all the vaccinating and figured out where I could go. And people thought I was crazy, but I'll tell you, it was really cheap and there were no tourists anywhere. So it actually ended up being wonderful. And I didn't catch COVID or give COVID or nothing bad happened. I did it safely. And I think sometimes you have to take a chance on whatever your dreams are in the quiet of night when you're laying there and what's going on in here, what your heart really wants. Do you want children? Do you want love? Do you want a big career? Do you want money? Do you want travel? What's deep in here and nobody else knows, and it's not the same as anybody else, and that's good. And then you got to run headlong in that direction with some focus and some sustained effort, because nothing else ever makes for a great life than sustained effort pointed in the direction that you really want to go. And to hell with what other people think you should do. Unless what you want to do is be a serial killer. That's not okay. But for the most part, yeah, for the most part, what people want to do is not harmful. But yeah, I think this book, and in general, what I've seen around, I've had the privilege of hanging out with a lot of people much older than me, and nobody ever regretted taking a little risk for a little bit of adventure. Nobody. So.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where I'm of the mindset that if you don't take the chance, you'll never know if whatever you're trying to do is either going to be successful or if you're going to have fun doing it or if you'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's be open to try new things because you never know.
And it's okay if you have to double back and change. We are different at different chapters in our lives, right? And that's normal and good. I think America is a really great place for a comeback or a course correction. This country is pretty forgiving of a lot, except for the most egregious stuff. So you can course correct, you can change, you can move. We have essentially 50 little countries, the states, right? You can change where you live. You can change who you hang out with. You can change what you do for a living. You can go. I have a girlfriend who went back to medical school in her 50s and graduated. And
wow,
my sister stayed home with her children for a decade and then started a major business, and she's quite successful now. You can. Life is both brief and also long, and in the sense that it's long, it gives you time for course correction. So, right, grab it, do stuff, and if it crashes and burns, you can change. It's not back to what I was saying earlier about the nihilism of science and the vastness of the universe. You're not that important, and that's good, right? You can You can do something different, and the universe isn't gonna come crashing down on top of you because you're not that important, and that's a good thing. So
Right. And I
yeah,
totally agree. I mean, it in general, if you don't take the chance, you're never going to know. And it's one of those things where if you enjoy doing something and it brings you joy, who cares whether somebody else enjoys it? You're having fun.
yes,
Just if it's not hurting anybody, just roll with it.
yes, I agree. And if in that quiet of the night, when you know if it's not hurting you, you're fine. And nothing, it's all impermanent anyway, right? But I think, yeah, I think it's about being honest. I think you honest with yourself. Like I was saying, in the quiet of the night, know what you really, how you really want to live, because there's 8 billion of us. The universe needs all of us. It's okay that we're different. We should allow each other that. I I was talking earlier about power over others. I don't understand people who don't want to allow for the incredibly lovely fabric of diversity that is society, because that's what makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, it's, I don't know, like I've done things, taken chances that were very stupid. And I don't know about you, but I don't even regret those, because the dumbest ones even made for great stories, if nothing else. So
Yeah.
I've done some real stupid stuff in my 46 years on planet Earth, and it didn't kill me, so I'm okay. I don't know. Have you ever done, like, you ever take a chance and try something and then later we're like, nope? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah, me too.
I've done that quite a bit, and it's also one of those things that shapes you as a person.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and it's good to like recognize that and maybe don't do it again. Yeah, my first semester at Berkeley, and I started college a year early, so I was only 17, intellectually very mature, but emotionally not. And I decided to take a full load of courses, and all the hardest ones. And then I also decided to pledge a sorority and basically party 4 nights a week. And so I had to drop all of my classes. I was going to get like straight F. And I had to tell my parents, who, my father's a professor, and he was, needless to say, displeased. And because I had to drop, I had to go to summer school 2 summers, and it still took me 4.5 years to get out because of this basically lost semester to alcohol and sorority. And they give you the letter that if you keep doing this, you're going to get kicked out of college. And it was scary. And, I was a little moron, but I made lifelong friends. I had adventures that were idiotic and maybe to some degree risky, but like most people, I survived unscathed. And later it was hilarious. And by virtue of royally screwing up, I learned about the scary consequences that I did not want to get kicked out of Berkeley. I did not want to be prevented from being with my friends and embarrassed by not finishing college and all the other things I wanted. So I course corrected. I got almost nothing but straight A's the rest of the time, still graduated with honors. It was fine, even given this colossal fuck up of the first semester of college. Not that rare. A lot of people do that. It's a time change from being a pampered high school kid at home to being sort of more on your own. And a lot of people crash and burn like I did. But I remember thinking like, oh, maybe college isn't for me. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm a screw up. And, it was fine. I partied more than I should have, and then I fixed it, right? And I would do the same thing over again, even with the humiliation of a colossal screw up. It was fine. And
that's what life's about, is just making mistakes and learning from them, because we all do it, and we're all going to continue to do it until the day we die.
Some of the most beautiful things are mistakes. Penicillin. I take an eyelash lengthening medication that was actually invented to treat glaucoma, and somebody figured out that it made your eyelashes longer. So some of the most beautiful things that ever happen are mistakes. My parents met by mistake. The reason I exist is a mistake. My father came to America because of war, and my father was a refugee. So that's more than a mistake. That is an international tragedy. So I sound like a total nihilist, and I'm not entirely, but I will say that it's very difficult when you look at it from the 10,000 foot view to say what's entirely good and what's entirely bad. It's not as simple as that always, right?
Right.
I think we like to cast judgment and say that we know what is good or bad, and sometimes it's simple, the definition, and sometimes it's not. It's nuanced, and even if it's bad, like we talked about, you can change course, and then you have a great story at a cocktail party later. And that's okay too. So.
Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
what's next for you? What do you think the next chapter in your life would be?
Oh, that's great for any of us to think about. That's fun. I don't know. So, like, it's funny in your mid 40s, like the midlife crisis thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I love Los Angeles, but I'm strongly considering moving. Maybe not forever. I'll probably come back because even though today it's not great weather, it almost always is, and that's pretty seductive. But I've been here for over 20 years now, and I'm itching to like taste another city for a little while. Maybe not forever, but I don't know. I might move, maybe temporarily, maybe not. If I don't do that, and wherever I go, I'm going to finish my aerobatic rating. So if I die in a plane crash, it was nice knowing you. I'm kidding. I'm a decent pilot. I've never failed a check ride. So far, so good. I had this dream of going back and finishing my PhD, not so much to get a job per se, but because I love learning and I always thought I would finish it, not just finish a master's. My dad's a professor and he would like that. And part of it is maybe that wanting to please him, odd right at this age, but I don't think I'll probably do that, but it's on my little vision board as something maybe. I would like to continue to love my family. My parents, like I told you earlier, are aging, and that's going to be a chapter. You're younger than me. Maybe you're not there yet, but when one has aging parents, that's a chapter that it requires a lot of family focus and involvement. They brought me into the world, and I'm going to take them home with great care and attention and respect because they deserve nothing less. All the mistakes I've made and all the things I've done to them, they still love me. And that's a grace that I don't deserve, I didn't earn. And so they are going to have everything they need as my sister and I help take them home in the next couple decades, probably. We'll see. I hope it's as long as possible. And whatever that entails might change where I need to live or at least spend a lot of my time. It depends how that goes, but it's a priority, of course. Modeling, I would like to continue modeling. Obviously, it changes from the nubile, Playboy, sexy stuff to more fashion. And somehow when you get older, they want to cover you up with fabric more. That's just the way it is conventionally. I guess old ladies are regarded as less of a sex object, which is weird because old people have sex too, but it is what it is. So I'll probably continue modeling to the degree it wants me. I am single because not a lot of people want to put up with this 24/7. It's a lot. So I will date and maybe I'll find somebody who can stand me for the long haul. If they don't, that's okay. I'll have a full life because I'll find love, whatever love looks like. If it's just lots of friends and a little dog, that'll just have to be okay too.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, you're living life to the fullest, and not a lot of people can say that.
No. Shit. Sorry, earbud.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks for saying that. I think it's the fullest for me, and it is sure it's making lemonade out of some lemons that I've gotten like anybody else, but I've gotten lucky in a lot of ways, unlucky in a few, and yeah, I gotta look on the bright side. I mean, don't you? Like, you've got stuff and things you wish were different, like anybody, but
you can't really change it. You just gotta, gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah, and I think one can work to make things as good as possible, and we're both lucky. I mean, look, we live in a relatively great country. We are pretty free. There's nonsense, of course, but it could be a lot worse. I think I am grateful every day. I'm grateful every single day that I'm healthy and free. And I mean, dude, I'm a woman. Like, there are countries where I would have been property, right? So I'm already winning just being an American woman, and that doesn't go unnoticed. So I'm so effing lucky. How upset could I be? That said, injustice. I go downstairs in LA and I see people who are human tragedies on the sidewalk, and I don't have any good solutions. So there's lots of things I wish I could change, and I try to do what I can where I can with getting involved in tangentially in politics. I don't want to run for office ever, but I'm involved behind the scenes with some people, and I obviously donate and I do what I can. If I can make anything a little bit better, I will continue to try. But I think we have a duty to enjoy, despite, it's like flying. Cloudy for both of us today, but you know what's right above that cloud layer? It's sunny. It's always sunny up there above. So even when you look at storms, you got to remember that just above that, it's blue sky all the time, every day. So I try to remember that, because without that, I mean, without hope and without gratitude for what is good, what do we have? That's not a way to live. It's not a way I want to live.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more, it's one of those things where every day you wake up, is something to be thankful for.
Yeah. Even the worst days, right? My dad used to tell me, like, I've been like 4 or 5 years ago, I went through something for about 6 months that was pretty bad. Everything worked out, but when I was in it, my dad said, look, this too shall pass. He's not a really religious man, but I thought that was very handy, because he was reminding me that everything is temporary. And then my mother told me to go to the movies by myself and watch like a Marvel movie with some popcorn by myself. And that was actually a solid strategy. If you're ever like not happy, man, big screen movies, just tune out. You can't get on your phone and look at nonsense. You can't be bothered. Yeah, big screen movies are a wonderful way to get happy, even for just a couple hours. Well spent $10. So
there you go.
I am just not here. I am not here to spend my life adding to misery. I want to make people happy to the degree that I'm able to. That's what I want to spend my few decades doing.
And that's all you can do, is change that one life, one person at a time.
Yes.
That's pretty much it. You're not going to change everyone or even change multiple people overnight. No.
Our corners of the world are very tiny, and that's okay though. If everybody just remembered to just smile at a stranger, just be a little less shitty. If somebody's having a bad day and they seem rude, don't make it worse. I know that's hard sometimes. You feel your heart rate get up, somebody's nasty to you, you want to strike back. I have made the mistake and done so, sure. But to the degree you can be kind, people really need it, I really need it. There's people that have been kind to me when I didn't deserve it. It dragged me out of really dark days, like really dark. And I don't know if they even know, but I'll remain grateful forever. So, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to like say hello to somebody at the grocery store. It's free, and you can change somebody's whole, you don't know. A lot of people got a story that'll bring you to your knees if you knew it. So just, if you can, don't be shitty.
Right?
Is that a good motto for life? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's one of those things where you should always be nice to the person next to you, because you never know what they're going through or what they've gone through.
Yes. And often the ones who are being really, I was connecting through DFW last week, delayed flights, a lot of passengers being uppity. I had been rebooked on another flight and didn't know it yet because I hadn't logged into an app. Came up to the counter. This poor lady dealing with all of us jerks. She's about had it, right? I'm trying to board a flight that it turns out I'm not on anymore. I was rebooked for something else and did not know it. So we had some words, and she probably wished I would go away. I'm sure she did, but she just looked at me and said, "Look, how you hanging in?" And instantly, there was no more need to be like, "I'm important and I got to get home 1 hour earlier," blah, blah, blah. You know, that traveler narcissism. I just was like, you're human. This is annoying. It's weather. It's nobody's fault. It's weather. And I'm just going to go to my other flight that's a couple hours later, and I'm going to leave you alone because you got 100 other people bitching at you. And it was because she was so nice that, like, there was no need to, like, kindness is like energy sounds so LA, right? But energy is a real infection. It's contagious. And it doesn't mean you're always going to like everybody. Doesn't mean you're always going to do the right thing. But the world's, I hope whatever comes next for me, as a long-winded answer to your question, that I can make myself fairly happy, and that maybe somebody or somebody's else. I hope I get that privilege. And if I do, in whatever way it is, then that'll be a good life, right?
Right. Very, very cool. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. It's been an honor to talk with you and hear your story and hear about some of the things that you enjoy doing and that you're passionate about.
Yeah, Joshua. I mean, I thank you for humanizing lots of people from lots of little misunderstood corners of the world. I think what you're doing is important. I think the more you can humanize people who live different lifestyles and that you can show that everybody's just trying to survive, I think that takes away from people's ability to other them and maybe even cause them harm. So thank you for having me on, and thanks for showing a human side of all the different and interesting people that you do. I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I've enjoyed it. I've got more episodes queued up tonight to watch, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.